In this module, I'm covering the 10 steps that lie behind the full process of integral sound healing. Now, if you follow these 10 steps that I'm going to outline and cover in this module, then it's likely that you're going to have very positive healing outcomes. Now, this could be for yourself, could be for your friends and families, and more importantly for your clients if you're working to do this professionally. So what do we mean then by integral sound healing? Or some people pronounce this as integral sound healing, but I'm doing it the English way, so I just use it the integral rather than the US way. Okay, so, well, there are lots of dimensions to this, but one of the key aspects is that we are dealing essentially here to make it integral, to make this a complete process. We are actually engaging with the 5 elements of consciousness. So this includes the source, or you could say the spirit dimension, the spirit element of consciousness, the soul element of consciousness, the mind, the emotion or emotions, and the body. So in this process, in this 10-step process, we are relating to and engaging and ultimately healing with and through these elements of consciousness. Okay, so now I talk about integral sound healing in other videos, in other modules, so I'm not really going to dive into what do we mean by integral sound healing too much just now, but it's important to note that this is the background. Okay, this is the backdrop. So we're not just dealing with physical health challenges on their own and assuming that everything that we're doing is about ultimately a biochemical process. Yes, that is important, and we do engage with that. We do recognize that that is an important element in this process, but also it's a lot more than that. You know, we know from the likes of Candice Pert that ultimately all our cells, all our molecules are engaged in an emotional response. They are triggered by emotions, and they have an emotionality attached to them. Equally, we know from the mind-body research that's been done that our mind and what we think and believe has a tremendous impact on our emotions and our physicality, and likewise the way how we are physically has a big effect on our mind as well. And so it is with the soul. So the soul is the interface between our source energy, our spirit, the divine mystery, the divine presence, the peace and the grace out of which everything emerges. It's the one sound, the unity out of which all vibrations emerge. The soul is the kind of the interface. It's the way that spirit is uniquely expressed into our being and through our being. And aspects of our soul can get fragmented. We can lose track. And so we need to pay attention to the soul dimension as well as how we're relating to the spirit, to the source, and whether we're open for that to come through. And if so, how do we channel it? Because if we can connect ultimately back to the source through our spirit, then we have the potential for a very deep level of healing. So we're looking at a whole integral process based on these 10 steps to cover all of these dimensions. All right, so what are the 10 steps? So in this video, I'm just going to name them and cover them, and then in the subsequent videos, we're going to dive into each of these in more depth. So firstly, it's about client connection. So this is about the quality of connection that exists between you as the healer, as we call it, the healer in inverted commas, and the healee, you could say, between the therapist and the client. Then so this is the second step, there's the process of setting appropriate intentions, both for you as the healer and with the client. Then there's the process of assessing energy field dynamics. So this is the third step in the process. So with that, we then make an assessment of what's in balance, what's out of balance, and then we've got an indication of what we really need to work with for the healing process to be effective. We then need to, this is a fourth step, co-create resonance. So what we mean by co-create is that this is a process that involves both you as the healer and the client as the healee. So it's not just you doing it for them, but they're engaging in creating this process of resonance. And we'll describe what do we mean by that resonance in the next part. Fifth step, triggering relaxation. Okay, we know that so many, perhaps 80 or 90% of the physical, emotional, mental health challenges that we and our clients face are related to chronic levels of stress. And so triggering relaxation is a way to deal with that and a way to help alleviate many of these symptoms of stress and ill health. The sixth step is about releasing. This is about releasing energy, releasing emotions. Ultimately, psychologists tell us that 80-90% physical, emotional, mental health problems are connected to a suppression, an oppression, a repression of emotions, often associated with accidents, with trauma that maybe we've incurred or we've experienced early in life and haven't fully processed those yet. And so working with sounds in this integral way, we can facilitate a safe releasing process. The seventh step is about transforming resistance. Yet often we hold back from, both consciously and subconsciously, from fully engaging in this process of healing. There are self-sabotaging strategies that we employ, or our clients employ, to not go through with this, even though intellectually or on some level we've got the physical discomforts, the aches and pains and so on. We want to heal, but there are other aspects that block that healing process, and resistance is part of that, is one key dimension there. So we need to identify and be aware of the resistances as they occur with our clients, and then have a process for transforming those to allow them to also be released and to allow the energy to flow in this true healing process. The eighth step is about reforming. Okay, so if we triggered the relaxation, we've facilitated a process of release, we've kind of broken through the resistance and transformed that. Now we need to bring in the new patterns of health and wellness and well-being and vitality and peace and calm. So this is the reforming process. The ninth step is about reflecting. So it's about encouraging ourselves and our clients to reflect on this whole process. What is the meaning ultimately behind all of this? Where are we going with this? This is not just a journey of healing the symptoms of illness, of aches and pains, of disease, of organ malfunction and so on, of problems with different aspects in our different systems, the circulatory system, respiratory, endocrine, all of these things. That we need to heal that if we're going to have a full life, but sometimes the healing of those symptoms doesn't occur. And yet there can be healings on other levels. There can be healings on an emotional, on a mental, on a soul and spiritual level. There can be deep peace that we can achieve. And often that comes about through reflection, through reflecting on the process, through reflecting on our lives. And so that's a key dimension in this process that we need to engage in. And then finally, although it's not necessarily in this order, so this is not like a sequential process that we're outlining here. These are just the different dimensions we need to cover. But the 10th step is about recommendation. So at the end of each of the sessions that we hold with our clients, we're saying that you need to be recommending courses of action that they can take to help themselves. Ultimately, this is about them engaging in their own self-healing. That's all we're doing here, is facilitating a process of self-healing for ourselves and our clients. And so them engaging and taking steps and doing things to help themselves is vital and important. And so you need to make recommendations, and these recommendations, we're saying, should be sound specific. They should be relating to them doing something with sounds, because they've come to you for sound healing. They haven't come to you for advice on diet and nutrition, although you might be qualified and experienced and able to give that recommendation as well. But primarily this is about a sound related, an integral sound healing process. So the recommendations are about working with sound. So that could be the voice, or it could be with playing another instrument, such as a singing bowl, for example. Okay, so that's the 10 steps. So if you can embrace and engage with all of these 10 steps, then the healing process is going to be really effective. and you'll be working at the state of, you'll be working at a high level of mastery if you've engaged and worked with and mastered all of these 10 steps. So that's what we're going to do. Is the other videos are going to cover this in more depth in this module, and so I encourage you to dive in and embrace this and practice these 10 steps.